Hello there, it's John Sifferman here. Been getting some questions about what my physical training routine looks like these days. Has it changed over the years? Am I still using clubbells, still doing MoveNet, things like that? And so I thought I'd turn the camera on and just talk about what I've been up to lately for those of you who are interested, which is kind of weird to me that people would care about how I train. But hey, you want to hear, I'll tell you. So this is just going to be kind of a high-level overview for educational purposes only. Don't do it just because I do it. But yeah, I guess we'll get into it. So where to start? Gosh. I guess pretty much every day I do some form of mobility training. Which could take many different forms: standing mobility drills, ground movements, biomechanical exercises, but something to work on my mobility, my flexibility, range of motion, just the ability to move my body in all the ways that it should be able to. And this could be a morning wake-up session for 5 minutes, half an hour sometimes if I feel like I need a really deep session, which I probably do on average once a week, a deeper session, but most of them are short and sweet. Also do them as part of my warm-up. So, if I'm doing a lot of, for example, squatting movements during one session, I'll do some hip mobility drills as part of that warm-up, just to kind of prep everything, all the working joints and muscles. I also use mobility drills as kind of movement snacks throughout the day. So after I get up from my desk, or if I'm just feeling a little stiff, I might just do just a couple wrist circles if I've been doing a lot of stuff with my hands, just because it feels good. And it's not something that I even think about. It's just kind of an automatic behavior at this point. I've been doing mobility training pretty much every day for, we're coming up on 20 years, 18, 19 years, something like that. I can't imagine life without it. And it's just a staple. And I have kind of the routines that work for me. I like to do a lot of different things because I get different benefits from each one. The ground movements offer distinct benefits compared to the standing mobility drills that I tend to use. And so I try to get a little bit of everything on a weekly basis. And so yeah, that's the mobility stuff. Kind of related to that is yoga and more direct flexibility training. So yoga is something I've been practicing, learning, training, and teaching for probably 17 or 18 years, a little bit less than the mobility stuff. And for me, how I use it these days is once or twice a week, I'll do a real deep session for an hour to an hour and a half to really get in there and open things up. And then after hard, strenuous, vigorous training, I will use different yoga techniques to compensate for that training, to reverse the over specializations that occur from, say, a really heavy weightlifting session or a long run, something like that. And so do a little bit of yoga after my runs, after my strength and conditioning. And then some evenings I will literally just turn on a YouTube video and just follow along it, so I'm not really thinking about it. Just kind of a way for me to unwind at the end of the day to do yoga. So there's a few YouTube channels that I have used for that. Some great instructors out there offering really good classes online. And yeah, can't imagine life without it. I could not do all the things that I do if I did not practice yoga on a regular basis. I'd be so tight. I was so tight. Gosh, 20 years ago, it's like I was walking around in a straitjacket all the time. I was so tight and immobile. And mobility training and yoga has helped to undo that and enable me to do a lot of the things that I love, which is great. So, gosh, what else? Natural movement training is probably, it's not something I do every day, but most days, probably 5-6 days a week, I'm practicing or training some type of natural movement skills. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically all the different ways that the human body is designed for. So everything from like ground movements, like sitting, kneeling, squatting, rolling, rocking, all these different positions and transitions that we can do on the ground, that falls under natural movement, but also get-ups, crawling, gait skills like walking and running and balancing, other locomotive skills like jumping and vaulting and climbing, and then manipulative skills, so like lifting and carrying things, throwing and catching things, and then even combatives and aquatic skills. So I'll get into swimming in a little bit. But I practice some form of natural movement most days, and it might be as simple as some floor sitting, which I do pretty much every morning during my quiet time when I'm praying and reading. But it could be a much more involved session, like spending a couple hours really practicing a lot of different movement skills out in nature or in a park, sometimes in my backyard or even in my basement, living room. Like, you can practice natural movement everywhere, and I do practice it pretty much everywhere. And yeah, sometimes I'll include it as part of my strength and conditioning sessions. Like, I'll incorporate some crawling or balancing or jumping into a circuit or a superset. Certainly the lifting and carrying skills are an easy thing to integrate into a strength training session. So yeah, but natural movement, it's a staple, something I've been doing since 2009 and plan to be doing for the rest of my life. You know, just like mobility and yoga training, like it's just really, really important to me to be able to move and function and be able to enjoy all of these abilities. So let's talk about the cardio stuff, and then we'll get into some of the more strength and conditioning stuff. So pretty much every day, so my cardio routine is like walking, running, and swimming primarily, and then a little bit of metabolic conditioning training, which I'll talk about near the end. So try to get out for a walk every day that I can. Doesn't always feel possible, but I mean, even if it's like a 10-minute walk, I try to make that happen every day. And once or twice a week, I try to get out for an hour or two for a walk. And today, like this Sunday morning, I'm out for a couple hours out here in nature. So that's another piece of my training. I do try to get out into nature at least once a week, and as often as I can, but once a week is kind of my minimum goal. And I find that's not just good for my physical health, but also my mental, emotional health, even my spiritual health, to be alone or with loved ones, just surrounded by all of this beauty, this creation, gives me the perfect place to pray and to think, reflect, work through difficult challenges and issues that are going on in my life, and get some exercise while I'm doing it. And you know, there are tons of research showing that just being out in nature, even just looking at images of nature, is super, super good for us. And so I find that it makes a really big difference in my health and my quality of life. And so that's what I'm doing this morning. And I brought you with me because I could use some company sometimes. But yeah, so try to get out for walks every day, longer one once or twice a week. And then running. Running is something that I've been doing pretty much, I would say almost year round, probably 10 months a year has been my average for the last 16 years, ever since I was able to fix my broken knees all those years ago, which is a story for another day. But I run on average twice a week. One of them is a shorter paced run or some interval training occasionally, and another one is a longer, slower run. And then, so that's like 10 months a year. I'll take a month or two off kind of in between seasons to give my body a break. So like this last February, I just didn't run. But pretty much year round, ever since I fixed myself, that doesn't sound right. Ever since I healed some of the problems, the injuries that I was dealing with that were quite debilitating, I've been running. And I also do sprints probably, it depends on the year, but probably 6 to 8 months a year, I'll do a sprinting session on Saturdays. And that might be a lot of short sprints between 20 and 50 yards, or maybe a little bit less in the 100, 200, or 400 yard range. 400 yard sprints are brutal. I love and hate them. But sprinting is, super, super good for you. I like maintaining the ability to sprint without pulling a hamstring. and it's obviously really good for conditioning. So that's something I incorporate once a week, at least half of the year. So yeah, running. Swimming is something I got into, gosh, what year was that? About 6 years ago now. I kind of learned to swim for the first time. I mean, I took swim lessons as a kid, but I never really learned how to swim. And then when I almost drowned in a lake, it was kind of a wake-up call for me. And so I was kind of afraid of water after that and stayed away from open water for a long time. But I got tired of being afraid, and I took a course to overcome that fear, which is one of the hardest training courses I've ever taken in my life, because you're supposed to know how to swim when you showed up, and I really didn't. And so it was just kind of scary to be out in the ocean learning how to swim. But I learned, and ever since then, I've been swimming probably on average 8 months a year for the past 6 years or so, and I swim once or twice a week. And in the wintertime, so where I live, it's very cold, and you can't go for swims really unless you break holes in the ice, but I've never tried that. So I swim in the pool in the winter, and then in the summer I swim in a local lake, which I did just yesterday. It was great. I swam with a buddy of mine. We did about 2,500 yards, and it was great, preparing for a swim race this summer, actually. So yeah, swimming's been great, super good for you, and I really enjoy it because it's kind of it's like a moving meditation for me. I can't really think about anything else when I'm out in the middle of the lake. I'm just thinking about just breathe, stroke, look, just enjoying nature. It's one of the best ways to start the day. I've had bald eagles fly right over my head. I've just had some really cool experiences out on these swims. And so, yeah, great form of cardiovascular exercise. So yeah, you can see the cardio stuff is like my swimming, my running, the hiking. So like this summer, my wife and I are hiking a bunch of mountains. We're doing some like, I don't know, every week or two, we're trying to get out for one. And so that's some cardiovascular exercise too, carrying packs like I've got here today. And yeah, so that's kind of the cardiovascular stuff, the sprints. Do a little bit of metabolic conditioning here and there, not as much as I used to in years past. I might do like one session a week, where it's kind of a circuit training or some high intensity interval training with some of the strength and conditioning stuff and natural movement stuff that I do. So then we get into the strength and conditioning stuff, which out of everything else I do, this is probably the most variable. It really depends on the season, depending on my goals, on my interests, how much time I'm willing to put into my training. And so this could be a 20-minute session twice a week on the more minimal side. It could be a 20-minute session 6 days a week. Or it could be 3 45 to 60-minute sessions on a weekly basis. It just depends on how I'm programming it, what my schedule is like in that season, and what my goals are. Am I trying to build strength? Am I trying to put on a little bit more muscle? Am I focusing on an event coming up? So like this summer, I've got the swim race. It just depends, and it cycles with the seasons. But I'm doing some kind of strength and conditioning work about 10 months a year on average, similar amount of time to my running. And I use all kinds of tools. So bodyweight training, calisthenics is definitely a staple. Do a little bit of barbell training, just the basic lifts. I use clubbells and kettlebells still, not as much as I used to. They were more of a staple in the past, but now I would consider them more of a supplement than a staple, but I'm absolutely still using them. I use sandbags quite a bit for lifting and carrying. I use stones. I've got a bunch of great rocks out in my backyard that I will lift. And so, yeah, in terms of programming, keep it pretty simple, using basic straight sets, supersets, circuits, a little bit of fancier programming here and there. I might do some each minute on the minute stuff, or some as many reps or as many rounds as possible. Might use some density training if I'm trying to break through a plateau. I do grease the groove on a regular basis. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Very effective for building some strength in the short term. So yeah, it just kind of depends. It's hard for me to dive into the details on that because it does change every 4 to 12 weeks because I'm constantly switching things up for various reasons. So, but yeah, strength and conditioning, love it. So yeah, what else is there? Gosh, I covered mobility, covered the cardio stuff, the yoga, the nature stuff, the natural movement stuff, the strength and conditioning. That's kind of the gist of it. I mean, I do some other stuff for physical training. You know, I do a little bit of cold exposure. I do a little bit of sauna, or I have been recently with a friend. That's kind of a newer thing for me. Cold training has not been. I've been doing that for a very long time. So cold showers, river plunges, a little bit of ice bath type stuff. And then, yeah, a friend of mine got a sauna, and so I've been doing that with him like once a week ish. So that's great. Do fasting, you know, prioritize sleep, nutrition, all that other good stuff. That is training as well. So yeah, I don't know if this was interesting to anybody, but I don't mind sharing it with y'all. If you have any questions about my training, let me know. Hit me up in the comments. Be happy to go into more depth if you're curious about anything. And thank you for walking with me out here in the woods. You know what we should do? We should make it a great day for us and those around us. I'll see you next time. One more thing. What do all of you do for training? Do you do any of the same stuff that I do? Or is it totally different? Do you go to the gym? Do you train at home? Like, I would love to know that, because this relationship, it's feeling a little one-sided right now. I gotta be honest. That's okay. That's okay. I don't mind. But I mean, I'd like to get to know you if you don't mind. So anyway,